Good morning, everybody. In response to the TED Talk about statistics, I pulled up a few statistics that are kind of part and parcel to what I do for a living. As a police officer, we pretty much live and die by statistics. Whether or not if we see a spike in crime in a certain neighborhood, that dictates that whether or not we're going to go over and respond and work in that neighborhood. The first statistic I pulled up has to do with my job, and it's talking about overdoses. With Narcan being in the news and the opioid epidemic that's been going on lately, I thought this might be a really appropriate statistic. So I went to drugabuse.gov and looked at their overdose death information. They gave several different charts. The first, the chart I'm going to talk about today is the number of deaths from heroin. It starts off in, it has overall, then male and female. Overall, the deaths in 2002 was about 2,000 deaths, and it seems to go up every single year until the last few years it skyrocketed, and in 2015 they had about 13,000 deaths. They say it's a 6.2-fold increase. I think I do see a little bit of the uncertainty in this. It's not very specific numbers. It's a graph. The graph is done up in increments of 2,000, so it doesn't nail down a specific number. This is the number of deaths. So I do think there's some uncertainty there. Can I see myself in the data? I do see it in the data just because I deal with narcotics and what's not at work. So I could definitely see this. We've had a couple of issues with overdoses here locally. So I can see myself in the data. I don't know if the general public would be able to see it. And how is the data collected? They use data from the Center for Disease Control. It's pretty standard government statistics. They do a pretty good job keeping their statistics together. The second one I went to was I was just curious about juvenile arrest trends. As an adult, we tend to look at the juveniles and teenagers as a problem demographic. So I just went and decided to take a look at the statistics. And for the statistics I'm looking at, I went to the OJJDP .gov website. These are the folks who deal with juvenile justice, and their juvenile arrest rate trends. They have them for all kinds of crimes. They go through every crime that's reportable. For this purpose of this thing, I just went through the violent crime index. So this just lists out the amount of violent crimes juveniles have committed between 1980 and 2014. It's interesting. We tend to think of juveniles and teenagers as the problem children, as the ones who cause all the issues. But you can see that it's actually been going down. It started at about 250 violent crimes per 100,000 people. In the 80s, it spiked up to 500 in the early 90s. That's probably due to the rise of the gang culture. But it's been a steady decline, and we're actually below the 1980s mark. We're looking at about 225 as of 2013, and that's 225 crimes per 100,000 people. Going back to the different merits that Chalabi said, uncertainty. You can definitely see uncertainty in this chart. Because it's per 100,000 people, it's implied that this isn't an exact number. Can I see myself in the data? Just looking at my case reports and stuff, I could definitely see how this works. I mean, it's a government chart, so it's not very exciting, but it definitely fits the bill. And how is the data collected? This data is actually collected using the UCR reports from the FBI. So every police department in the country submits UCR information, it's Uniform Crime Reporting, to the FBI. The FBI puts out all these statistics. The problem is that it's not across the board. Not every police department has to put them in there, and it depends on what the police department label or defines as a violent crime. Because different, like for example, in Alaska, we don't have battery, we just have assault. So, but down in lower 48, we have assault and battery. So there's some discrepancies there. But overall, I think the UCR is probably the best thing that we have for this kind of reporting. And then, in interest to finding something that's not quite so depressing, I went back and checked out film statistics, and for just looking at box office revenues, the example one that I was looking at was the highest grossing movies in North American box office in 2016. Star Wars Rogue One blew everybody away with $532 million. Finding Dory, Captain America Civil War. There's the uncertainty. I don't know if there's a whole lot of uncertainty there, because those seem like pretty specific numbers. But then again, they just have to count the dollars that they brought in. Can I see myself? I can definitely understand. I would expect Star Wars to beat everybody else out, Pixar to follow. I could definitely see these making sense. And how was the data collected? I don't have a clue. I would assume that it would be through just money that was collected. They'd see how much they earn, but I don't know how they get this kind of statistics. Overall, I think the three rules that Chalabi uses, whether or not you see uncertainty, can you see yourself in the data, and how is the data collected, I think it's really good for statistics, because there is a lot of room for interpretation in statistics. You can really fudge the numbers. Just look at the gun control debate. Both sides have statistics. One saying that the entire world's being saved by guns. The other one saying that the whole world's falling apart by guns. Thank you. Sorry it went a little long. Bye.